All right, part two. Okay, let's get this started. All right, what's up, everyone? If you don't know me, my name is Denzel Mensah. I am a life, personal development, and relationship coach. And I am also an ENFJ, 9-wing 1, if you're familiar with all of my typology stuff. And today I wanted to do a sequel to a video that I actually did last year, around this time, on sex, over sexualization, and purity culture. This time, this video is going to be a lot more explicit. So the last video was pretty much talking about, and it was like kind of like a brainstorming of my ideas and thoughts that I've been having about sex. Not in that way, but just, like the concept of sex and how we as a society or as a community, as human beings, approach the topic of sex, especially me having grown up in a Christian environment and everything, and how that influences certain things. And today, I wanted to talk a little bit more deeply about how to, I guess, in a way, have a more enriching sex life and more different approaches on how to actually, think about sex and everything. Because obviously, before I even did the last video, then I had already thought a lot about things. But now, especially after I dropped that video, then I've been really, really, really like curating a lot of thoughts, like within my own marriage, relationship coaching other people. And I'm not like a sex coach, but I've watched quite a number of them, and I've been reading certain books, and I've just been really gathering lots of perspective. And then also, like Tess reiterating, I'm grateful to have friends and acquaintances that I'm able to ask a lot of the dirty questions because I'm genuinely curious to learn about this thing that's so taboo and so, like people are just so afraid to talk about this. And it's causing a lot of damage. So it's like, okay, I want to be one of those people who actually normalizes, popular word that we're using today, about just talking about sex. And you might be from a community where it's like, bro, Denzel, like we always talk about it. Like, maybe where you're from and maybe your friends make it weird, but no, not us. Like we're okay with that, and that's cool. That's what's up. You're lucky. But yeah, I did not grow up with that type of environment, and so I'm new to the game in that way. But being new to it has also forced me to play catch up, and probably there might even be some things that you can learn from me, like as we exchange perspectives, because I realized just how behind I was in a lot of like things, a lot of ways I was even probably sheltered in certain ways, and I've been really working hard on trying to understand that. Once again, even before I did my last video, so now I want to share a few of those thoughts, and just kind of like once again do a little bit more brainstorming. But unlike the last video, like I have a better setup, so it's not going to be as interrupted, and I have thoughts. It's going to be more of like actual thoughts rather than just like stories and me like trying to think through things with you. But I'm still inviting you guys to give me some of your thoughts on a lot of things. So that being said, I also want to take this opportunity to invite you to check out my video on the 5 erotic blueprints. That video was a video that I did a couple of years ago, when I started learning about them. It was very, honestly, yeah, life changing. I think that a lot of people might benefit from that, and it might help you with your own sex life, with your partners, whatever it might be. But anyway, let's talk about sex. I have realized that there are a lot of complaints online, like Twitter, Instagram, wherever. You see all these memes about like the gender wars continue. You know what I mean? And one of the biggest gender wars that we have is like, oh man, like men come so fast, and this is that, or like, man, women don't even know how to suck dick, like whatever it might be, and it's just like this constant bickering toward each other, of how one gender is in bed versus another gender in bed. I featured in a video with Heidi Prieb on men's mental health during this whole era of men are trash. I spoke a lot about how like I really, really, really disdain these ideas of like these gender wars and everything, because I really don't think, like, why are we so opposed to each other? Like, we should be united, men and women. We should be supporting each other. We're all we got. We are the human race. And I know that's easier said than done, but I really feel like this is something that we should focus more on. Uh, I think that one of the biggest ways that we could probably resolve that is by focusing again more on ourselves, not in a selfish way, but actually focusing on ourselves in a way to better ourselves for the other person. So, a big complaint that we usually see from women is that men tend to focus too much on trying to please themselves. Men focus too much on their ego, on their own performance. They might want to receive oral, but they're not really trying to, give oral, or if they do, then it's really like for their own ego in some type of way. And a man's ego is probably his biggest enemy because it's a man's ego that pretty much like keeps them from learning how to actually please a woman. And the only time that they do try to learn how to do that is for their own ego stroke. And I think that's like really unfortunate. So when this happens, then we get problems. Like recently, I posted a poll on Twitter, and I pretty much asked Twitter a series of questions. One, do you plan for sex with your partner? Two, how frequently on average do you and your partner have sex? Three, how frequently would you prefer sex, ideally speaking? Four, how often do you initiate sexual interactions with your partner? And I put the answers so that you could see how, like for the number one, it's like, oh, nah, spontaneity mostly, or most times, yeah, or like 50-50. And then for number two, it's like, okay, 1 to 2 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week. Does anybody want like 5+ a week, or does anybody have like 5+ a week? And then, how frequently would you prefer sex? Like ideally, and then it's like, oh, the men could answer, like then the women could also answer. So I thought that was like really interesting. And I pretty much was doing a lot of comparing and contrasting of like how women approach sex versus how men approach sex. And a lot of other tweets that I often see is like when we see that we are complaining about one gender, then that gender will clap back like, well, you just might not be the right woman for that man, or you just like, like a real man would turn her out, a real man. So it's once again like making it focus back on yourself. And that's something that's been very interesting to me because I actually love this podcast. It's called Enjoy the Podcast. I think that it's the hosts or the speakers on the podcast is made up of 3 guys, and they pretty much have a lot of like guy talk, so it's really cool. I think that Jared is an ESFP, and Los and JD are ISFP, in my opinion. They just talk about like a lot of like different topics. And on one of their recent podcasts, one thing that I've been trying to do is just expand my worldview on things and like not seeing certain things as weird, even if I disagree. So one of the things I thought was interesting was this episode where they were talking about why straight men suck in bed. And one of the things that they were talking about in that episode was how if there was a class where it was teaching men how to like properly, give strokes, like would these men take the class? And a lot of them were like, no, I wouldn't take it and all that. Or like they felt like very like weird about it. And that is so interesting to me because for me, I would take it without question. Like, I'm here to learn, like like in full disclosure, I mean, this is candid concepts. Like, when it comes to the idea of pleasing my partner, I take that very seriously because sex is supposed to be a way of expressing how much you really love the person. At least from my worldview, I believe that it's a physical manifestation of the metaphysical intimacy and bond that you guys have, and you're bringing it into a way that words can't even encapsulate. And so when it comes to that, it's an art, and I want to make sure that I'm skillful and masterful in that art because my partner is worth that. And so if that means that I take a class with other dudes and we're all doing these like push-up positions and we're like learning how to give a proper stroke, I'm going to be focused on what I'm going to be focused on doing. I'm not going to be thinking, oh man, this is weird, or man, I don't want nobody like touching me. Bro, no, because this is for me to learn to improve my skill with my partner. It's going to better please her. And guess what? If you better please your woman, if you better please your man, then if you want sex more frequently, then they're going to be more willing to also give that to you. And I feel like this seems to elude a lot of people. Like, if you really want that person to be more open, like when I look at those polls, I think that there is something to say that, like, okay, men probably just want sex more often. I think that's a general rule, and I don't know all the science behind it, but from what I've seen, and it's like, okay, something about testosterone and all of that. And then there are like, straddlers where it's like, oh, women, there are a lot of like women who also have sex drive as high as men, or like even higher than the average man and stuff like that. But for the most part, it seems like whether or not you are actually like, a man who prefers, who has like a higher sex drive and all of that than your other partner, I think that the best thing to always do is to learn how to please your partner. I, once again, for example, I would not consider myself to be a sexpert or anything. In fact, even in making this video, again, I'm just sharing the thoughts and things that I've learned. But I once literally took, like, I once literally watched a video, a 90-minute video on how to become a master at giving oral to a woman, because that's one of the many things that I've seen on Twitter where it's like, yeah, men don't even know where the clit is. Men don't even know how to give oral. Men like, and it's like, and when I've talked to a lot of female acquaintances and friends, then they've told me, they've shared, they've even tweeted on their own, stuff like that. Like, their favorite part about sex is when they receive oral. A lot of times, even more than the actual penetration, because if you start learning about like how that works and everything like that, most women do not even orgasm from penetration. And the women that often do orgasm from penetration, it's because you're penetrating in a way that's also rubbing against the clit in a certain way, providing friction on it, and hitting the G spot, which is like curved right up, between the vaginal canal. So, with knowing that, then it's like, okay, if you really want to please your woman as a man, your best bet is probably not just penetration, but actually throw in lots of oral. That's probably your most elite weapon that you have. And I think that if you can master that, get your woman hooked to that, then rarely will you have the oral coming, like, coming without the penetration. So if you can make yourself enjoy that and enjoy it just as much as she's enjoying it, that's the trick right there too, because it's supposed to be an exchange both ways. But if you're focused mainly just on yourself, If you're just focused on receiving and you're just focused on getting yours, and it's like, oh man, I came, and then all of a sudden, like, you're going to sleep or whatever, like, how do you expect her to always be excited and happy to do it with you next time? And then if it's the other way around, if you're a woman and, like, for whatever reason, like, your man is not really wanting to do that, like, what ways can you guys learn to please each other? Because the better that you're able to please that person, the more they will want to engage with you when you have those desires. So I think that was something. And I've always been a pleaser. Like I said in the erotic blueprint, I identified as a shapeshifter. And you can watch that video for like more details on what exactly that was. But like, I've always been a pleaser, and I'm not trying to like brag on myself, but it's like apparently not all men are. And I'm like, why? Like, when I listened to this podcast and I overheard these guys like talking, like, yeah, like, I wouldn't do that, or like when I was younger, like I was like, why? Like, why wouldn't you? Like, why not take a class on how to better please your woman? Why not learn ejaculation retention and stop blaming women, for other things? Like, learn how to actually like hold back your cum until your woman has received her orgasm. It's another tweet that's been circulating over the past couple of weeks. Like, yeah, us women can orgasm like 10 times and a man orgasms like once and then he's like done. If you know that's the case for you, try to relax, bro. Set things up strategically. Like, all right, if I come at the beginning or whatever, then cool. While I'm like, regrouping, then I'm gonna be giving her head, and that a lot of times that will arouse you again, so that you can go back at it, And once again, that's elite. You don't have to be aroused in order to give her head. You know what I'm saying? And so, if your soldier is low at that moment, then you can there's a lot of other things that you can be doing. You don't have to end it right there. Make it enjoyable for your partner. Because the less that you're focused on just getting yours and the more that you're focused on giving it to your partner, then the more that it becomes a collaborative thing. And now you won't have those problems anymore where, oh, I want to have sex, my partner never wants to have sex. Because your partner is thinking like, man, this is another opportunity where he or she is just going to try to get what they want and then go to sleep or whatever it might be. Please your partner. Don't just try to get yours. Focus on pleasing your partner and learn how to enjoy pleasing your partner. And I know that this probably sounds very basic to many of you, but I've seen so many, and I've heard so many podcasts, so many couples that I've seen, and it's just like, bro, learn that. Like, there are so many women who have to fake orgasms now, just because they know that their partner is going to feel like they're taking too long or something, and that's sad. Take your time with your partner. You got yours. Make sure that she gets hers. Learn to find enjoyment in pleasing her. You know what I'm saying? And I'm mainly talking to the men because I'm a man, and we usually tend to be the one that complains more about women not wanting sex. And so that's why I'm like trying to say, like, all right, well, how much have you actually tried to make it enjoyable for her? But everything I'm saying can also go the reverse direction. Like, if you're a woman who has a man that's not really like as into sex, then yeah, how much have you really made it enjoyable for him? Like, rule number 1 about giving head to a man is you have to actually look like you love and enjoy giving head. That's like rule number 1. If you're doing it lazily and like all of that, it's not gonna work as well. Like, make yourself love it, make yourself enjoy it just as much or even more than he is. Same for the guy. Make yourself love it and enjoy it in that way. I think another thing that we should also keep in mind is that every woman is different, especially as a guy. Every woman is different. Learn the foundation and practice And don't be awkward about discussing these things. Like, I think that, once again, whenever it comes to the topic of sex, there's a lot of people, again, I know it's not everyone, but there's a lot of people who are so awkward about it. Like, it's like, oh, we're using all these euphemisms and these censored words a lot of times and everything. Like, bro, let's not make this awkward and dancing around the bush, no pun intended. But like, let's actually get in there. Oh, wow. Like, let's talk about this. Let's talk about, like, okay, what did you like about what I was doing over here? All right, what didn't you like? Like, I like to think of myself as like some sort of like artificial intelligence, that the more that I'm, going with you, the more I'm learning about your very particular style. The more that I'm like picking up on all of the subtle cues and then all of the direct cues, so that I can better advance my performance and skill level that's catered specifically towards you, so that it can be enjoyable. And I think that's maybe like part of the whole shapeshifter thing. But honestly, I feel like anybody can be able to learn this. It doesn't matter what your erotic blueprint is. It doesn't matter what anything is. Like, if you really love your partner, if you really respect and want your partner to enjoy their time, then you will learn them. It doesn't matter how many other partners that you've had. Women are all different, and a lot of times, I don't know if I'd say that men are all different, but learn your man. You know what I'm saying? Like, learn your partner and learn how to please them. Have those discussions. And if you are somebody who your partner's trying to have those discussions with you, speak up. Don't be afraid to moan in bed. Like, that communicates a lot. As a guy, as a woman, whatever. I think that when you learn how to communicate non-verbally and verbally, like that, everyone always says the general, rule, communication is key. Communicate what you like, communicate what you don't like. If you don't enjoy when someone touches you, when your partner touches you in a certain way, communicate that gently, but let them know. Like, everything is a learning process, and the more that you communicate, the better that things are going to continue to progressively get. But if you keep on just holding it to yourself and you don't share these things, then how do you ever expect for your sex life to improve? And then if it's not improving, then you're not going to want more of it, and then your partner is going to be disappointed, and then that could probably lead to other problems that you probably do not want. I think the biggest thing that I'm just trying to say in this video is, don't make it about you. Make it about your partner. And then your partner will always want it. And then that way, you won't have to make it about you to begin with, because you're always going to get what you already want. Like, if you really desire more sexual intimacy with your partner, then get them to also desire it by making sure that it's elite in the best ways that you possibly can. And if you are that partner who wants it less than your partner does, help your partner out. Like, figure out things about your own body, like, learn and explore your own body and pay attention. Don't zone out when you're like in it. Like, don't be too much in your head. Focus on, like, okay, I like this, let's try some new things. I think that being open-minded to like trying new things, like, hey, that's on y'all, like, that's good, like, what, like, it's between you two. However y'all want your sex life to look like is between you two. So that means that there's a lot of creative things that y'all can do, and you don't have to care about what other people are thinking. Like, if you like it, do it. And it should be a safe and vulnerable place between you and your partner, where it's just a way that, honestly, sex is just the way that adults play. That's actually what a quote that I had heard from the show Sex, Love, and Goop on Netflix. And I thought that was also like pretty dope. Miss Jaya is on that show, and I think that she is probably my favorite sexologist expert that I paid a lot of attention to. But yeah, I think that that's a very big thing, to make sure that you are focused on your partner and pleasing your partner, and when you make their experience elite and great, then they're going to always want more from you. I think that that third question that I asked, how frequently would you prefer sex, ideally speaking? So most men say that they would want it 4 to 5 times a week, and most women say that they would want it 1 to 2 times a week. And I still think that that's very interesting because, again, that means that there's a little bit of a disconnect, generally speaking. Granted, I know that it's not as huge of a poll, I didn't get like, hundreds of or millions or whatever, thousands of votes, but I still think that it's saying something, especially having thrown it on Instagram, and I got pretty much the same exact results too. I think this is once again going back to the idea of like, hey men, how can we get our women to want it more? What are you doing wrong? What are you not doing at all? One of the biggest things that I try to avoid on this channel is to put you in a victim position or allow you to feel comfortable remaining in a victim position. We're not about to sit here and continue to be like, oh, woe is me. No, because that's not going to help anything. So if you're over here thinking to yourself, like, man, it just sucks that, she don't be wanting to have sex when I want to and stuff like that. Instead of just thinking about how much it sucks, I'm here to encourage and inspire you to be like, all right, you know what? This is what I'm going to start doing differently. This is how I'm going to start trying to get her to like enjoy it more and everything. Like, what can you do to change that situation around instead of just sulking about it? Communicate, learn, like become more masterful. Ask her, like, don't let that ego get in the way, bro. Like, ask her, like, hey, babe, what things do you actually like? What things have you been wanting to try? Like, let's spice this up even more. Like, help me. What things do you feel like I lack in? Like, even if that constructive criticism might hurt, like, oh, honestly, I don't think that you really get oral that well. Bro, go and learn. Go and learn. If you need that link that I was talking about, hit me up, email me. Like, I have no shame sharing resources, but like, go and learn, man. Like, I watched that whole 90-minute video, and like, again, like, I was so focused on learning all of the techniques and everything, and it was like different couples that were also like teaching and all of that. Now, for a lot of you, this will probably go too far for you, just so you know. But for me, it was different couples that were like teaching it, and some of them were even lesbian couples, because I always heard that like women give the best oral to women, and that's always been like interesting. Okay, well, what is their secret? And so I studied that so intensely that I was not even aroused the whole time while I was watching, because I was just that focused on making sure that I learned what they were teaching. And so if you feel like, that is something that you could really benefit from, because then your partner will be able to benefit from, do it. Like, in that podcast that I'd listened to, they said that a lot of guys, they don't like learning this type of stuff, because then it makes them seem like to their friends, like, oh, if your guy friend sees that you have a Kama Sutra, or you're like learning about these types of things, it's like, ha, you don't know what you're doing. All right, so guess what? I'm about to learn I'm about to learn what I'm doing, and I'm probably gonna like it doesn't even matter. Like, it's not a competition for me to be better than you. It's more about what my partner thinks. I'm going to continue to always improve. I probably do already know what I'm doing, but I want to continue to improve that, because this is something you don't want your sex life to be stale and stagnant. You want it to continue to rise. And the better that it is, then the more closeness and intimacy that you're going to have with your partner, So, I don't know. I just felt like this was a video that was really needed in today's world, especially what I see like on Twitter and all the time and everything, like all these gender wars and us continuing to attack each other all the time on sexual issues and everything like that. Like, let's stop the shaming and let's start helping each other. Let go of your ego and talk to your partner. And if you are a partner who's being talked to, first of all, if you're doing the talking to, make sure that you're gentle with your criticism and make sure that it's constructive. tell them what you like, and then tell them what they could probably work better on. And then even mention some things that you plan to work more on, so that it's like, okay, this is a cool, like, collaborative thing that we're gonna work on this together. It's not just you. And then if you are a partner who's like receiving that constructive criticism, be open about, okay, like, she or he is not trying to hurt you. They're trying to help you. They're trying to help y'all together, so that y'all can improve, so that y'all can have the more elite sex, more elite experiences, more intimacy, more closeness. But you don't want to have your partner thinking that, oh yeah, I don't really enjoy this as much because they just focus on whatever that they want. Like, yo, there's a lot of resources now online. You can find them. Focus on that. So, yeah, like I said, I'm not a sexpert or sexologist in a way, but this is something that I've been really learning a lot. I didn't go too in depth with actually almost anything. Like, I didn't give my tips and stuff on like how to learn, like, on what exactly to focus on in certain areas and everything like that, because that would be for a whole different type of video. But this is just mainly a video like as a wake-up call that if you're experiencing dissatisfaction with your sex life, then I'm not saying the problem is you, but you have the ability to fix it instead of remaining in a victim position, and continue to push yourself there. Continue to communicate that. Continue to try to find ways to improve it, because you can only control yourself. You can't control other people. So try to do better with that, especially for those of us who grew up in the church and everything. I was watching Jackie Hill Perry and Preston Perry's video on like what they wish they knew about sex. And I actually really liked it. I thought it was pretty interesting. I'm gonna put the link for that. Like, probably should be popping up right now. But I thought it was really interesting, especially from like a Christian perspective. But it was also like disappointing that it's like, yeah, like, us Christians, in my opinion, we suck at really getting into the nitty gritty about like, yo, now that you're married, now that this, now that, like, instead of us always talking about how bad sex is and fornication and all that, let's start teaching how to have sex. Like, we shouldn't just like, oh yeah, now you're off on your own. We should help people to be able to have that elite sex that we believe that God has given us as a gift and everything like that. And I think that Christians are too afraid that it'll fall into awkward, taboo, lustful territory. And I understand that, but I think that us avoiding talking about it more frequently is what gets a lot of Christians in more trouble. Because now, if you're in a Christian faith and you're in your Christian faith, all you're hearing about is like how bad sex is and fornication, blah blah blah. Eventually, you're just going to try to look for answers elsewhere, and that's going to be also problematic according to your faith. So, Christians should start creating more spaces to really talk about this stuff and not make it weird, like, actually, like, really, like, give like tips on how to do that and like how to like really improve certain things in that way. So these are just a lot of issues that I've been seeing, and I've been seeing how they affect other people very deeply, and I just wanted to address them in this video. So give me your questions, comments, concerns, your thoughts on my thoughts. And yeah, let me know if like what type of experiences that y'all have had with anything that I've said here. I just wanted to once again like open the discussion and give some of my thoughts here. And anything that you wanted to like add to the table, like, I want to hear it. But yeah, if you like this video, make sure you like, subscribe if you haven't already, and yeah, I think that's all. Done. Thank you for taking time to watch that video. If you watched it, whether it be on regular speed or 2x speed, I appreciate it. And if you don't mind hitting that like button for me, it really helps this humble channel out. Also, if you haven't already subscribed and you like the content that I make, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell button. That way you'll be able to keep in touch with all the new posts that I make. And then also be sure to check out my playlist where you'll be able to find a lot of my older videos, because I think that a lot of those have some great quality content too. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Make sure to leave comments, questions, book me for coaching sessions at denzelmensah.com, and God bless.